Hi guys, it's Mark from Warfactory, and today I'm going to be talking about some new units that come to us in a small wave in February 2020. So in this wave we're going to have a Mercenary Walker. We can field in two versions, which is the Shredder and the Decimator. We're going to have PLA HQ, so finally some command units and some heroes exclusively for the PLA, so the Chinese faction for Dust. And we're gonna have a terrain element I'm gonna talk about. So this is what I'm gonna be covering today. So let's maybe start with the Mercenary Walkers, because they are always one of the most popular units that are fielded on the battlefield. So this Walker comes, as I said, with two weapon options. As usual for Dust, you have different versions to field. One of them has Axis turret, the Shredder. You can see that you have the body of the M3 medium allied walker, which is very popular among the mercenaries. We have seen it many times. And on top of it, we have a German anti-aircraft cannon that's stolen from Prince Luther, I think. And basically you can even see on the premium version of the model that you're seeing right now that the mercenaries just grabbed this from another vehicle that even has a different paint job and just put it on here because we need some AA power fast. So basically mercenaries never really had a problem with anti-aircraft units, give or take the fact that you have an AA version in the starter set, so it's very easy to have one. But the Shredder comes at a cost of 13 points, and we have advanced reactive fire inside, which is always a nice addition to any unit that needs to be on a guard duty. So as you know, or maybe not, in Dust it's not so easy to react on your enemy movements, and with this ability you double the chance of your unit being able to react to enemy action, which usually allows you to shoot and kill someone before they do something nasty to you, like come down on you with shotguns or some flamethrowers. So the Shredder carries a heavy machine gun in the front, and that's gonna be usual for any of the M3 Walker chases. There is always a small machine gun in the front, which is based on the Allied 30. And there is a dual anti-aircraft guns that we can of course see because they are here. Yeah, two anti-aircraft guns, that's correct. And they are mostly used against aircraft. They are not very good against infantry because this is a high caliber weapon, so they are best used against aircraft and against lighter enemy armor. So up to armor 3 we can do some real damage, to armor 4 only 1/1 and then nothing. So Shredder gonna be a pretty cheap defensive unit to keep out enemy aircraft. And aircraft is gonna be coming back to Dust soon, which you're gonna see in the future. Of course we have aircraft now, but they are not super popular apart from the SSU, especially for the tournament. In the future, trust me, you're gonna see more of them, and this baby, the Shredder, gonna help you keep them off of your units, of your precious command squads, or maybe artillery that is being bombed. So this guy with 2/2 to enemy aircraft and advanced reactive fire should keep them off. It can of course shoot infantry, especially thanks if you combine both the heavy machine gun and dual anti-aircraft guns, but we have some better units to do that in the mercenary forces, so mostly an anti-aircraft unit. So the next one is Decimator. So for 2 points less, we lose the advanced reactive fire, we lose the heavy dual anti-aircraft guns. We just get one anti-aircraft guns. As you can see, this is also the same story. So we have a mercenary universal chassis that is widely available and easy to get, so the M3 Walker chassis. And on top of it, we have some German weaponry mounted, this time also from the previous one was Prince Luther, so this is gonna be probably the Sturmluther, basically from the German command Walker. Still don't have very powerful artillery for the mercenaries, but you have very powerful block and faction artillery units already in the game. So this baby moves 3/5 and can easily call in artillery strikes if needed, and packs some punch against infantry and a bit of it against very light enemy armor. So similar to Shredder, but different role on the battlefield. So this unit is gonna be like a scout in front of your units. It's gonna be calling your artillery fire in front of the enemy before rest of your army can get in, and then it's gonna be assaulting enemy infantry that's in the front and keeping away. Both of these units move 3/5, which is very important, and have 4 armor, which is classic for M3 Walker chases. They are very fast, quite agile, and have a decent role on the battlefield. So one for a mobile artillery observer point that can also engage enemy infantry, and the second one for anti-aircraft reaction duties. So this advanced reactive fire is going to be important here. So a nice addition to the mercenary vehicle park. I always like seeing this on the boards because anybody can use them. You can easily fit them in any army, and they always find their place on the battlefield. So just for a quick break from talking about units and tactics, next one we have the terrain option that comes this month to us, and this one is a ventilation bunker shaft, whatever you want to call it, and it comes basically in 3 elements. So we have this big basically bunker element, this strong point with a lot of intakes for your ventilation and a big fan on top. You have removable doors, which is very cool because you can glue them, or if you're good enough, you can position them in an you see, you can position them in the open state and then put something nice inside. This is what I usually do. So I would put this on a battlefield and have something glow inside, so when you see it from good angle, then oh, there's something inside, you can spot it. And then we have this cover that comes on top and covers our fan from being damaged by enemy. And the best part is that it fits the classic dust one field of 9.9 centimeters. So we just put it there and it takes one dust field entirely and looks really cool. And it's very universal because you can use it both on Arctica, in Africa, in Europe, because, well, the Axis or the Allies or SSC can just build a bunker anywhere. And this can be, you know, a storage bunker, or it can be an entrance to an underground facility that your troops are using instead of going through the main doors, going through the, you know, ventilation system. Very cool terrain element, and I will be very happy to see it on the boards used. And now we go to the last of the new releases for this month. We go to the PLA HQ. PLA is a faction that is still was lacking some units, and HQ is always a must if you want to field a decent army that can take enemy on their own. And of course, in the HQ box, we're going to have a command squad. So finally, you don't need to rely on this block command squads or officers. You can have your command squad, your own from PLA faction, that's going to fit greatly in your army, and they cost 9 points, which is not the cheapest of command squad, which goes to the Bloodcreuz's command squad, but for 9 they're still on the cheap side of a command squad that can reactivate, repair or heal your units. They have a decent move of 2-5, so in case you need to get away from some pesky spy or some enemy units that suddenly appeared in your backyard, then you just march for 5 and wait there for the reinforcements to come. There is nothing super special because, as we all know, the PLA is focused on cheap, not very well armed squads. So these guys only have the simplest submachine guns with range 3 that cannot even damage armor 4, but do some decent damage to armor 1 and 2. So you can engage these easily, but it's a command squad, so you don't want to have it attacking the enemy. You want it reactivating, and then maybe in the final steps of the battle, when you need this final push, these guys come in. And of course, the mechanic comes with a power tool, which is always a nice addition, and power cutter. And with this, he can damage enemy walkers. It's not super effective with 1/2, but it's always better than banging the door with a grenade. So a decent command squad and a very needed addition for the PLA armies that can now have their full force in a faction, not relying on mercenary or block units. And of course, with each HQ, we have a bunch of heroes. The basic one is Commissar Poon, which you already know because he was available for quite some time as a separate release. Now he's part of the HQ, and for 4 points, you get a very good hero that can join your Armor 1 squads with move of 3/5. His armament is very simple because he's just a guy with a pistol, but he has demo charges, which he's an expert when he uses them. So he's very effective at assaulting the enemy vehicles with 1/2 against almost all of the board instead of the most light ones. And then he gets fighting spirit. So for 4 points, you give one of your squads additional 4 health points and a fighting spirit. So once per game, they hit on factions and crossers, which is always nice. And you need to sometimes add some more survivability to this Chinese unit that tend to, well, die quickly. That's their job. They just, you know, en masse units. But if you want to have someone that surely makes it to the enemy lines, then you just add Commissar Poon there, and this additional health points should help. Now, the next two heroes are brand new and they are really cool models. They are my favorite from this wave. You have Professor Sum, which full name is Something Wong, and he's a mischievous mastermind. And he's super cool hero because he has an ability called Master Deceiver and a very cool pose in his full running pose with his code behind him. And there is some really cool detail, as you can see now on the close-ups. There is some cool details in him that you can really paint very nicely. And this dragon on his coat is super cool, so I cannot wait to see him on the battlefield and see him painted by some of our players. But let's go back to the effectiveness on the battlefield. So Professor Sam costs 8 points, which is quite expensive for a not very fighting focused hero. So he has 5 health points, which is always useful, and he can boost the squad really good. Armor 1, but his Master and Master Deceiver basically makes the enemy command squads very unreliable, because any success they roll for get moving you bunch of monkeys or get moving you bunch of monsters, so this works on Cthulhu reactivations, which is very important with these new big monsters coming in. These rolls need to be re-rolled and the new result is final, so there is no re-rolling thanks to a command squad or some other skills. You roll, then Professor Sum says, sorry, something wrong, you need to reroll that, and then the new result is final, which means that the enemy command squad's gonna be much less effective. So this is the good news. And for the 8 points, that's already good. But you also get the Poison Master. So he poisons the enemy medical supplies. And as long as he's on the battlefield, the enemy cannot heal his units, which is also very powerful against some builds, especially the Steel Guard, which is, of course, very effective because it's hard to kill them. They need to roll normally for bringing them back. And also this counters some combos with Gregor the Defector or other powerful heroes that are just being healed and it's hard to kill them. So sorry, no healing for you with Professor Sam on the battlefield. And apart from this, he has this classic pistol, which is nothing special, and he has a poison flask, which in close combat has explosion. And this, my friends, is a very powerful thing, because there is no saves against it, and you're gonna be rolling the amount of dice the enemy has on this unit, which means that every hit you do probably brings down a model, which is very effective. So Professor Sam, a must-have in any Chinese army, in my opinion. Do not keep him in the back, have him on the battlefield, deny the enemy his rerolls, his command rolls, deny him the medical supplies, but have him on a unit, use him in this close combat, use this poison flask, and you're gonna be good. Really cool hero, and I'm super happy with him. And the last one is probably the most, the one that's gonna be discussed the most. Very cool pose of a very cool hero, Master Yuk. So Master Yuk is very expensive because counts at 17 points. He's the only Steel Guard unit, a hero that the PLA has, so if you want to combine him with a unit, you need to break your faction bonus. And is it worth it? That's gonna be the discussed part. We had very big problems when balancing this guy because his abilities are so powerful. So he of course is a Steel Guard, so it's hard to kill him. He has a Salt Shield, so he can have additional saves when in close combat. He has a Tesla button, which is already good because it stuns your enemy, but he's a master fighter. And listen to this. This hero hits on rolls of faction and crossers with all its weapons, applies to unit join. That means that this guy, when joined to a Steel Guard unit, all of their rolls with all of their weapons gonna hit on crossers and faction. And this, my friend, is super powerful. So that explains why he's so expensive at 17 points, and that also explains why we don't have a PLA Steel Guard unit yet, and why he isn't a block or a red guard hero, because then he will be extremely powerful without you needing to lose some of your faction bonus for a squad that joins him. Right now you have two options. You can of course fill him by himself, which is a small tank, but for 17 points he's on the expensive side. You can wait for some PLA Steel Guard units to release in the future, which will probably happen at some point, but we're gonna have it in our minds to balance them with this guy. Or you can do how it was planned and field him with a faction without your faction bonus, with some Steel Guard units, and use him to his full effectiveness. And for 17 points, this guy is gonna be hitting at crossroads and faction is gonna be super hard, and it's gonna be super effective. And if you keep them alive by healing them and enemy doesn't have Professor Sam, then you're at home, my friend. So as you can see, this is a way also of proposing to players and showing them that playing without faction bonus is also okay, and it's good to experiment, and it's also very good to try different combinations, because you have some very powerful options spread across this faction in different armies. And sometimes it might be more effective, instead of focusing on your faction and having this faction bonus, which is always cool, of course, and this is the way that most of you play. Maybe it's also cool to buy some units from different factions, mix it all together, and see what happens with this powerful force. And Master Yuk is just the way to go, and he's, let's say, the spirit of not using the faction bonus for now and experimenting. So please do that, please experiment. And that covers the releases for February 2020. I hope that I presented you with a lot of interesting information and insight for these units, and I hope you're gonna buy them at your local game store, or if they are not available or they don't carry dust, then ask them to do so and contact us at War Factory. And if that's impossible or you don't have a local game store, buy at warfactory.eu. Okay, that's all for today, folks. Thanks for watching, and I will see you at another episode on YouTube with War Factory. Bye bye.